Hello everybody and welcome to Killer Cafe Podcast. I am your host Jennifer, and this is a podcast where we talk about killers, crime, as well as spooky, scary, and sometimes skeletons. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite places to visit since I've moved out here to Idaho, and that is the Idaho State Penitentiary. So, grab a coffee, grab a blanket, and let's dive on into the pen. The Idaho State Penitentiary was built in 1870 and completed and took on prisoners in 1872. It was an active prison up until December of 1973, and in their 101 years, they took over 13,000 prisoners, and of those, 217 were women, and with that, 109 died, and of those that died, only 10 were of execution. This prison was one of the first territorial prisons in Idaho, only 7 years after it became a territory and a few decades before it became a state. This complex started off as a single-cell building and quickly became a major complex that grew to have multiple buildings surrounded by a 17-foot high sandstone wall encasing the complex. This place has seen multiple scandals, escapes, murders, and more. The main riot in 1973 was the start to the end of this prison, with the dining hall being one of the buildings along with the original prison being burnt down. So, let's talk about the buildings really quick. The territorial prison was completed in 1872 and received its first 11 inmates from the Boise County Jail. This building was converted into a chapel in the 1930s, and then it was destroyed by the fire in March of 1973. The new cell house, which was completed in 1890, consisted of 3 tiers of 42 steel cells, and the third tier closest to the Rose Garden was considered death row. The area now known as the Rose Garden was once the area where we would take to execute the prisoners by hanging, and of the 10 executions, only 6 were in that area. The administration building, it was completed in 1894, and that housed the warden's office, the armory, the visitation room, the control room, as well as the turnkey area. The false front building, which was completed in 1895, held the commissary, trustee dorm, the barber shop, the hospital, and then the hospital was later converted into the social services office, but that was burnt down in the 1971 riot. The dining hall, which was completed in 1898, was designed by George Hamilton, which was an inmate at the time, and was later burnt down in the riot of 1973. Cell House 2, which was completed in 1899, was known as the North Wing and contained 2-man cells, as well as a honey bucket was placed in the area to serve as a toilet, and the inmates later burned that building down in the 1973 riot. Cell House 3 was also completed in 1899, and that served the same purpose as Cell House 2, and it was eventually condemned for habitation, but in 1921 it was converted into a shoe factory, and then later in 1928 it was remodeled for inmate occupancy and became the first cell house with indoor plumbing. The women's dormitory, which was built in 1920, was built out of necessity because prior to its completion the women moved into the warden's old house in 1905, and previously the women did not have separate quarters, and several scandals forced their relocation. Male inmates then built a wall around the old warden's home in 1906 to serve as a separate facility for women, and this building had 7 two-person cells, a central day room, kitchen, and bathroom facilities, and this building even held the infamous Lida Southard, or also known as Lady Bluebeard. Built in 1923, the multipurpose building was built by the inmates and served as a shoe factory, shirt factory, bakery, license plate shop, as well as laundry, hobby room, loafing room, and housed the communal showers. Solitary confinement consisted of two sections. The first one was called the cooler, and it was built in the early 1920s. And although it was considered solitary confinement, these cells would contain 4 to 6 men at a time. The second section was later built on in 1926, and that was considered or known as Siberia, and it housed 12 3-by-8-foot cells with 1 inmate per cell. Cell House 4 was completed in 1952, and that was the largest and most modern cell building at the penitentiary, and some inmates painted their cells and left drawings on the walls that can still be seen today. Cell House 5, are also known as maximum security, was built in 1954, and this was for the most unruly, violent, and everything in between inmates, and this also became known as death row because they also built a permanent gallows up in that area. There's also an outdoor recreational, though it is not housed within the walls specifically, it's right outside. It's now located in the Idaho Botanical Gardens, but it was a baseball field, basketball, handball, tennis, horseshoes, and football. And this was later turned into a concert area, and they used to have a baseball team called the Outlaws, and that's why it's now called the Outlaw Field. The prison currently is also in the Idaho Botanical Gardens. There are tons of memorabilia, testimonies of old inmates and guards, as well as so much more located in this prison. This history has brought so much to the forefront, and even in the now area that you walk in, the welcome area, if you go through the gift shop in the back, they have videos playing of old testimonies from the old guards and inmates. This history brings hundreds of people to this penitentiary every day, but the main reason I believe people come is because so many wish to see the ghosts of the past that haunt these walls. From Raymond Snowden to Lida Southard, and many hope to see these ghosts and document their experiences. This prison is known around town as one of the most haunted, if not the most haunted place in the town, if not Idaho itself. And they even have monthly ghost tours with Big River Paranormal. Some people even claim that there are people peeking over railings, clanking on the cell walls, and mumbles as you're walking through these cells today. And this prison has seen so many things, and it tends to hold on to its spirits, but we don't know if it's residual or intelligent. And with some, they're just hoping to see Dennis walking around. Now, there's many inmates said to be walking around these corridors, but the one that they care about most is the local cat, Dennis, because he can't seem to pass up as he is seen walking around the grounds and showing up when you least expect him. So Dennis is the cat, and he was adopted by the inmates and hidden throughout the prison until one day he was noticed by the guards. The guards had said as long as the inmates were good, they could keep the cat, but quickly he took the hearts of the guards as well. When he passed, he was buried on the grounds, and the only one with a marsh grave inside the walls. Now, by the old guardhouse sits a stone for Dennis the cat, and the stone reads, Dennis the cat served 16 years, birth Memorial Day 1952, died Memorial Day 1968. Some of the well-known inmates that seem to haunt this area are Raymond Snowden, who killed a woman over some cab fare, and him being the one and only one hung in the built gallows of death row. But unfortunately, his neck did fail to break when he dropped, causing some to believe that he still resides in his cell today, forever behind bars. As well as Lydia Southard, she is also known as Lady Bluebeard, and she was the one who killed her husbands as well as her brother-in-law and daughter for insurance money using arsenic poisoning derived from fly paper at that time. After many years of scandal, murders, suicide, and disease, there are so many moments where you can feel like somebody's watching you as you're walking around these areas and from behind the bars. There are some many infamous people who have been held here as well, and one of the main ones that people like to talk about a lot as well is Harry Orchard, who killed the former governor of Idaho. On December 3rd of 1973, the prison did finally shut down fully and was later turned over to the Idaho Historic Society to be redone as a museum. You are able to walk around today and enjoy the sites as well as most of the cells, including those that are burnt down. And the history still holds time as the Idaho Botanical Gardens as well as the Penn tends to hold concerts, different events, and seems to try to hold the history. If you do happen to visit the cemetery, there are over 25 unknowns that are buried in the cemetery, along with many named inmates that the family just didn't seem to want to claim. So if you want to visit this beautiful haunted spot, enjoy the wonders yourself with either a guided or unguided tour, or even just enjoy their monthly paranormal haunts with Big River Paranormal. I hope you guys all enjoyed today's video. I hope you like, comment, subscribe, as well as so much more, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.
You'll